Right, good morning everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. Today we're going to be looking at archiving data and compression. As some of you may know by now, my name is Adam and I'm part of the Metaphorix account management team. I'm joined here this morning once again by James Sharp, who's one of our consultants. I'll hand you over to James in just a second and he'll take you through what we're going to be looking at today. But just before that, just a little bit of housekeeping. So if you've been on our webinars before, you know how we do things. We ask that you direct any questions that you have about this morning's session to me after the presentation's over. So I'll stick my contact details up on the screen at the end. Please make a note and just give me a call or an email. Also, this webinar is being recorded and will be available to view online in the very near future. All in all, we're looking for today's session to last around 20 minutes. So if you're ready then, James, I'll hand over to you and we'll get going.
Thank you, Adam. As Adam said, this webinar will be on archiving data and compression. So that will consist of archiving documents, data deletion, and date compression. So archiving documents is how we can have multiple versions of one document. So for instance, if a customer says, send us a quote for 5 items and also send us a second quote for 10 items, instead of having 2 separate quotes, you can archive 2 versions of the same quote. So I'll show you how we do that. I also wanted to have a look at data deletion. Data deletion is about how you can delete potentially unnecessary data from your database to save a bit of space and storage. And date compression is how we can compress ledger entries into fewer ledger entries. So if we've got 10 ledger entries, for example, we could compress that to 5. And again, that saves storage in the database. So first, then, archiving documents gives the ability to have multiple versions of a document. So a customer may want to have 2 versions of a sales quote. Archiving documents can also be used for sales orders, purchase quotes, and purchase orders. So I'll show you now how that works. If we open a sales quote by clicking New, we'll pick our customer and we'll pick the item. The customer said they want a quote for 5, so we'll put 5 as quantity and we can then archive that quote. But the customer says that they also want a quote for 10. So what we can do is we can print this quote and send it to the customer. So as requested, here's your quote for 10 items. But then we can go to our number of archived versions, view the card, and we can see our other version for 5. And we can also print from here. So we could then send them a second printed quote for 5 items. And if we go to our sales quotes list, we can see that we still only have 1 quote. So it is the same quote, but it just means we've got a second version in the archive. And we can do this for other documents as well. The next thing I wanted to talk about is data deletion. So data deletion is to do with saving space on your database. So basically what data deletion is it's a set of routines that can delete potentially unneeded information. So we've got a few menus in the data deletion menu. We've got a delete entries menu, a sales documents menu, and a warehouse documents menu. And I just wanted to talk about a routine in each of those menus. So the first routine I wanted to show you is the delete changelog entries. So I'll show you that if we go to the data deletion menu. Go to data deletion. So this is the menu here that I wanted to talk about in this slide. Specifically, now I wanted to talk to you about the delete entries menu. So we've got a few things in this, but I was going to show you the delete changelog entries. So this routine here will delete changelog entries out of the changelog entries. So if we go to changelog entries, we can see this list. For those of you that don't know what changelog entries is, it's a way of tracking changes in the system. So for example, if people kept changing the sales price, and you wasn't sure who it was, then you could track the sales price, and you'd have a record then of all the changes made to that. So sometimes people track everything. We generally don't recommend that because it uses up a lot of space. And some people just track important things. Some people don't track at all, but that's what this is for. It's a history of changes to the system, and you have your old value and your new value, and the user that changed it. So that's just a bit of background. What I actually wanted to show you is the fact that we've got 4 changelog entries for this specific date, and that's the 16th of the 3rd, 2017. As you can imagine, this takes up a lot of storage in the database. So if we go to our data deletion menu, and we go back to the delete entries and the delete changelog entries, we're going to run this routine. If we just press OK, without specifying a date and time or a table number or any other filters, because we can add other filters, that's going to delete the whole changelog. But we don't want to do that. I'm just going to show you how we can delete for that specific date. And that date was the 16th of the 3rd, 2017. It's actually a date and time filter. I'm not going to put in a specific time. I'm just going to put an asterisk. So that's going to be for all the times of that date. So the asterisk just means anything after this value. So that will delete all the times for that day. If I press OK, that'll run the routine, and we can see that 4 entries have been deleted. And if we go back to our changelog entries now, and we sort by date and time, we'll see that those entries from the 16th to the 3rd, 2017 have been removed. So that is one way that you can save space in your database by deleting potentially unneeded information. You might think, actually, all the stuff in the changelog from last year, anything that's not this year, we don't need anymore. And you can use this routine to clear it out and save a bit of space. The next routine that I wanted to talk about is the delete invoiced sales orders. So when you post a sales order, that sales order becomes a posted sales invoice. It turns into a posted sales invoice. So that original sales order disappears. But let's say, for example, if a customer wants to buy things throughout the month, then you send them all throughout the month. And instead of being invoiced for each one individually, they want to pay a bulk invoice at the end of the month. So they might buy 5 things throughout the month, and at the end of the month, you send them an invoice for all 5 things. If you work like this, which a lot of companies do, Navision by default doesn't delete the original sales orders like it does if you raise them one at a time. And this routine will go back and it will delete all the invoiced sales orders. So I'll show you how that works. First, I'll quickly show you how it works if we invoice them one at a time, just so we've got a point of comparison. If we create a sales order, pick our customer, say item, so the sales order number here is 1139. So we'll say the quantity to ship is 1, give it our external document number. So 1139. So if we post ship an invoice, this sales order becomes a posted sales invoice. It's turned that document into this document. And if we have a look now in our list of sales orders, we don't have that document anymore. So that's if we do it that way. But let's imagine now, instead of doing it like that, the customer wants to buy products throughout the month, all month, and then be billed at the end of the month, which is how a lot of businesses work. So we're going to do the same thing, but instead of shipping and invoicing, we're just going to ship. So pick our item. Quantity to ship is 1. Enter our external document number. And instead of shipping and invoicing, we're just going to ship. So we've sent this product to this customer, but we haven't charged them yet. So let's imagine now it's the next day or the next week or just later in the month, and they've said that they want to buy another one. So we will raise a sales order again for the same customer, and we'll do it for the same item. So the quantity shipped will be 1. Exactly the same thing, external document number, and again, post and ship. Right, so we've sent 2 products separately of 2 sales orders. Now let's imagine it's the end of the month and we're going to send this customer the bill for the products that we've sent. So what we'll do is we'll open a sales invoice and create a new one. We'll select the customer that we've sent the products to, and instead of adding the items on, we're going to pull those sales orders into this invoice. And to do that, we go to Line, Functions, Get Shipment Lines. And here we can see our 2 orders. If we press OK, I'll just minimize the header so we can see the lines. That is then going to create an invoice for those 2 sales orders. I'll just add the external document number, post, invoice. So that sales invoice then becomes the posted sales invoice, but what that means is that our sales orders still exist, and that's these. So there's an argument to say that those sales orders aren't necessary and aren't needed and are just taking up space in the database. So that's when we come to our routine. If we go to data deletion, sales documents, and delete invoiced sales orders, we can filter by customer or by number or bill to customer and lots of other things. Some additional filters here, but we'll just press OK, and by pressing OK, it's just going to run it for everything. So that's now deleted all the invoiced sales orders. If I go back to our sales orders list, we can see that those sales orders have disappeared. So that's another way that you can save space on your database by deleting records that are no longer needed or potentially no longer needed. And then the last form of data deletion that I wanted to show you is deleting registered warehouse documents. When something is sold from a controlled warehouse, warehouse pick needs to be used, and that's a document that tells the person in the warehouse where to take the item from and where to put the item. When the sales order's sold, that pick remains in the system, and there's an argument to say that that's not needed. The delete registered warehouse documents will delete that pick from the system, again, saving space in the database. So I'll just show you now how that works. So if we go to data deletion and warehouse documents, we've got a routine here called delete registered warehouse docs. If you look at the type, we'll see that we can use it to delete putaways, picks, and movements. So I'm just going to give you a quick demonstration of it, and in this example, I'm going to use a pick. So again, we'll go to our sales orders. Create a new sales order and pick our customer. This location. So in order to sell this item from this location, which is a warehouse, controlled warehouse, we're going to need to have a shipment document and a pick. To do that, we release the document, we create the warehouse shipment, and then we create the pick. To open the pick, we go to pick lines and card. So this is the document really that I wanted to get to. So this is the document that tells the person in the warehouse to take one bicycle from the pick zone and then to place one bicycle in the ship zone. what will often happen is this will be printed on paper, and then this document here can be given to somebody in the warehouse and say you need to take this or this amount of this item and place it here. So we've got our take line at the top and then our place line underneath. So we'll auto-fill our quantity to handle and register the pick. So this is when the person in the warehouse has moved that where they needed to move it. After it's been picked, we can post the shipment. And after the shipment's been posted, we can invoice the document. So then our sales order again becomes our posted sales invoice. The reason I wanted to show you that process is because what that leaves behind is this, and that's our registered pick. This is the document that says that this item was taken from the first bin and placed in the second bin. And there's an argument to say that this document isn't needed and it's just taking up space in the database. So I'll just quickly show you the last routine, which is in data deletion, warehouse documents, delete registered warehouse docs. We can specify the document type, but we'll just run it for all registered warehouse documents. And now if we go to our registered picks, we can see that that's disappeared. So again, that was a way that we can save space within our database by deleting documents that are potentially not needed. And then the last thing that I wanted to show is date compression. So date compression is a way of consolidating multiple entries into a single entry. So what it will mean is if you combine a long list of entries, it will mean there's only one credit and debit entry per account per month. The year must be closed and the entries must be closed. So they're prerequisites for this to work. So if you try and compress 1,000 entries and the year's not closed or the entries aren't closed, then you can still run the compression, but it will just miss those entries. It won't error or anything. It just can't compress those. So given that the year must be closed, the first thing that we need to do is have a look at our accounting periods. If we go to our accounting periods, we can see that we've got a closed tick here. And by year, we can see that years 2016, 2017, and 2018 are closed. And then if we go all the way down to the bottom, we'll see month by month that they're closed. So that means that we can compress the ledger entries for these years. And to do that, we go to date compression. In date compression, we've got lots of examples of entries that we can compress. I'm just going to show you one, which is the customer ledger entries. And if we click this, we open this window, and this is where we enter the date, or the date range that we want to compress. So let's say if we go from the 1st of the 1st, 2016, and then we go to the 31st, the 12th, 2018. So that's our range. If we press OK, it's going to run the compression. Now, if we go to our customer ledger entries and we sort by date, we can see here that some of these entries have been compressed. As a minimum, there'll be a positive, or a credit and a debit entry per account per month. So we can't compress it completely. But here we can see the entries that have been compressed. So dozens of entries can be compressed into one single entry. And again, this saves space within the database. So prerequisites are that the year must be must be closed and the entries must be closed. And by entries must be closed, I mean that this here is not ticked, and that will compress the entries and give us more space in the database. So that was all I really wanted to cover for today. Archiving documents, which is multiple versions, data deletion, which is a way of getting rid of old documents that might not be needed, and date compression, which is a way you can compress multiple entries into a single entry. So thank you for listening, and I'll pass you back over to Adam.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, James. I hope that you all found that interesting and useful. As I mentioned earlier, if you've got any questions, please take note of my contact details that are on screen now. I'm more than happy to help you out with anything that you've seen this morning. Just give me a call or drop me an email. Our next NAV Know How webinar is going to be on the 20th of September, where we're going to be looking at perpetual inventory. However, next Tuesday, we will be running a webinar on our 4PS construct solution, where we'll be looking at resource planning in 4PS. So keep your eyes open for emails to sign up to those. Once again, thank you for being with us this morning. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.